What is going on, everybody? How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome back. Episode, I don't even know what episode it is. I think I'm almost 60 now of Plumecast. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's having a good weekend, a good Saturday night. Lots to talk about tonight. Lots of things that have been going on throughout the week. If you are new here, this is your first time here, this is my weekly gaming news podcast where I just talk about stuff going on within the news, stuff that I haven't covered in my weekly videos, and stuff that I have covered, but I want to continue to double down and go deeper into. So welcome everyone to Plumecast. Hope everyone's having a great Saturday night. I know I am, because I am here talking games with you guys. But if this is your first time, I do drink a beer on every episode. Again, I've been not very creative with my beers recently, and I'm drinking a beer that I've been drinking a lot of lately. That is Innis and Gunn, a Scottish golden beer. Great beer. One of my favorites out there. But welcome, everyone. Welcome, Rachie. Guess you're not in the chat, but enjoy your wedding. Bob, haven't seen you in here for a while. Welcome. Delusion of Grandeur, what's up? Surdin Carnosaur, how you doing? Welcome. Hope you're having a good night. Appreciate you watching videos. And yeah, this is my weekly podcast, so just kind of hang out, read the comments, talk about stuff that's been going on throughout the news. There's a lot to talk about this week. A bunch of stuff that's come out today as well. But obviously, we're going to talk about I think everyone's been talking about this. I've been talking about it a lot. I've made a bunch of videos on it, and it is the CMA. I mean, what more can we say about them, right? What's going on with Xbox? What's going on with Activision Blizzard? And all of the stuff that they are going through phase 2 right now. And it seems like that if there is one country that is going to block this deal right now, it seems like it's going to be the UK. But who knows what that means, if that's even something that will have a massive effect, what Xbox will be able to counter with that in terms of, I don't know, coming back at them, all that type of stuff. Who knows? But we'll go over they put out an issue statement for why they're entering phase 2. And there's like a 76-page document. I can't go through that. That will be literally like a 10-hour stream. But there's also a 15-page document where they kind of break it down. They also put out a tweet, so we'll go through that. We'll take a look at the stuff that they say, at least the interesting stuff for the reasons why they're blocking it. Go over some Twitter conjecture on what people are pointing out from some of the stuff they've seen within the issue statement, what they're thinking. We've seen news come out. I've seen some articles today about a PS5 Pro and new Xbox dev kits being sent out. We'll go over that article. Razer Edge, another handheld that's been announced. We've got the details on that. We'll talk about that. And there was a big thing going on today on Twitter, particularly, and just in gaming, which has to do with Bayonetta 3 and the voice actor coming out, putting out a bunch of tweets. We'll look at that too. That's a little of a weird one that just popped up today. But lots of interesting stuff going on in gaming right now that doesn't really have to do with actually playing video games at all. Like, there's nothing really. I mean, I guess we're just around the corner from all the big releases that have come out. Oh, that's the other thing I guess we got to talk about is Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights, a game that I'm actually very excited for. But the news that we got yesterday, kind of mind-boggling. You know what? We'll start with that. Let's talk about Gotham Knights here to kick things off. We'll start with some of the smaller stuff today. And we will eventually get, obviously, to the CMA and to Xbox Activision. But before we get into that, let me just take a look here at the chat. Let's see who we got here. What's up? Lagoshi, Sherwin Williams, Happy Cloud Gamer, Rocketeers. Welcome. Hope everyone is having a good Saturday night. And yeah, I am. Well, I have the Habs. Sherwin, I have the Habs game on the side here. I probably won't be able to watch too much of it, but it's going to be another rebuild year for the Habs. But hey, as long as they give entertaining hockey, which they have been so far, especially that first game, I'll be happy with it. Second here. All right, let's talk about Gotham Knights. I mean, what is going on with Gotham Knights? And I would love to know what your guys' reaction is to Gotham Knights right now. So, I know Gotham Knights is coming out. I think the release date is the 27th, or is that Call of Duty? Or did they push Gotham Knights release date back? Or maybe it's like the 23rd. It's right around the corner. And it's a game that I'm honestly I am still excited for. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say just because of the 30 FPS, I'm completely not excited for it. But so October 21st is when it comes out. So it's even closer than I thought. So it's a game that I'm excited for. When they first showed it off, I was one of those people that were like, okay, this game looks cool. Like, it looks like it's going to be an Arkham style game with all of the different characters. And you're going to have multiple different styles of combat. And they showed off more of the gameplay and like the skill tree and the RPG mechanics for it. And I was pretty excited for it. Like, it's a game that I am looking forward to. In fact, actually, you guys are going to laugh at me now because of everything that's going on, but I actually have the collector's edition pre-ordered. And I just pre-ordered it because in case I decide I want to keep it, I pre-order them, and then I usually cancel the ones that I don't want to keep. But I pre-ordered it, and like that statue that comes with Gotham Knights has me extremely excited that I want that thing. But we'll see. I'll probably keep it, maybe do an unboxing on this channel of it and show you guys everything that comes with it. But it's a game I'm excited for. Not gonna lie, it's a game I'm excited for. And then we got this news that came out yesterday, I believe. And it's WB Games Montreal confirming that Gotham Knights on consoles will run at 30 frames per second with no performance or quality mode. And this is the post. Who is this from? Flaua Marty. I absolutely butchered that name. I can speak a little bit of French. I can speak a bit of French, but I just butchered that. And she says here, hello everyone. I know many of you are wondering about the availability of a performance mode for Gotham Knights on consoles. Due to the types... I'll turn that down a little bit here for you guys. Due to the types of features we have in our game, like providing a fully untethered co-op experience in our highly detailed open world, it's not as straightforward as lowering the resolution and getting a higher FPS. For this reason, our game does not have a performance quality toggle option and will run at 30 frames per second on console, which is definitely something extremely... When I first saw that, my initial reaction was just of pure disappointment, especially in today's day and age with these consoles, that pretty much every game that is coming out has that toggle for quality and performance mode, and it makes a big difference. It really, really does. I generally play in performance mode, rarely playing quality. I do turn on quality to see like how good the game can potentially look, but it's just so jarring going from 60 to 30 frames per second when you've been playing in 60 frames per second for a very long time. So this is extremely disappointing, especially if there's going to be like fast-paced combat. 30 frames per second is going to hurt it. The only, I guess, saving grace you could say for this is that I believe all the Arkham games were in 30 frames per second. So if you're a huge fan of the Arkham series, you're going to be going and having the same style of performance for Gotham Knights. But it's a very odd decision. And my theory on this, with them sticking to that 30 frames per second, is that they obviously made decisions from the ground up of building this game that has forced them to have this sort of release, I guess, with not being able to give a performance or quality mode. They haven't been able to build it in and make it stable enough to be able to release this with having a performance mode, knowing that the frame drops aren't going to be just absolutely insane. That's going to hinder the experience. And it's also a game that they've actually, instead of delaying it, they made the release date earlier from that. I think it was an October 27th release date or something like that, probably because they didn't want to be right on the same time as Call of Duty. But man, this is disappointing for sure. And it's also kind of shortchanging console players, because I believe on PC you're getting 60 frames per second, and the console version of this game is $10 more. So it's just a weird thing, and people are calling like, just don't pre-order it, don't buy it on console. And honestly, like, yeah, if you can't stand 30 frames per second, I would not suggest picking this game up at launch. And it's almost seeming like they're not even going to be able to add a patch in for it to bring it to 60 frames per second. Because at the end of the day, we've seen so many games that look incredible have performance modes, bringing it down to 1080p, dynamic resolutions, and making sure that it hits 60 frames per second. So I'm not sure what's going on here with W Montreal, but it's a really, really odd decision. They're almost making this thing dead on arrival for a lot of people. But I saw other arguments out there that do make some sense. I would kind of agree with it, with the fact that Gotham Knights is probably trying to appeal to a crowd that doesn't really follow the industry as closely as a lot of people. They may not even notice the 30 frames per second. So they're probably trying to just kind of piggyback off of the Batman Arkham fans and hopefully just get sales based off of the hype that it is Gotham Knights and it is that style of an IP. It's a superhero game. So a lot of people won't even think about this. But the other thing that I think is even worse than them releasing this game at 30 frames per second, yeah, that's like embarrassing for this generation with the Series X and the PS5. The thing I think is that's even worse is they're obviously were trying their best to hide this as long as possible. With the release date 6 days away, they did everything in their power to hide this from people. And I'm sure once all the reviews come out, it's going to be a massive point of reviews where they talk about how it's only 30 frames per second. But you're going to have a lot of people also reviewing this on PC and not even mentioning it. So it's a very odd thing going on here. But I have to say, I still do want to play it. I don't know. It's just like it's a game that I am excited for. This was just definitely a disappointment. But yeah, there's no real excuse for this. I can't think of very many excuses for why they would want to put this at 30 frames per second. You have this tweet here. Gotham Knights was first teased 3 whole years ago. How could they not get this right? WB Games Montreal really fumbled the bag. Get with the times. There's no AAA current gen games that only run at 30 frames per second. And I think they're in their trailer. They kind of showed off like performance or whatever, and they mentioned that. I saw another tweet about that showing that they were highlighting the performance of the game. And another thing, I thought they were going to bring this out onto PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but they decided not to have that anymore. Yet they're still not hitting the 60 frames per second. There's a tweet here that I saw. Do I have it up here? I could have it up. It was from Colt. Here it is. So when we look here at the PC specs, lowest common denominator for Gotham Knights is not the Xbox Series S. It is the 1660 Ti or the AMD Radeon RX 590. So it doesn't. This argument that people still do today that the Xbox Series S is holding generations back is just like, how many times have games been released that have had multiple different modes that allow the Series S to run at 60 frames per second? It happens all the time, so it doesn't make any sense. It's such a bogus argument, and people are going to continue to push that argument forward for absolutely no reason. The Series S is literally the best deal in gaming. It's incredible. I use my Series S all the time. Absolutely love it, and I'm very happy that they released it. So the argument that the Series S holds back the platform or holds back the generation is still, it's just such a stupid argument. And I guess, yeah, you're looking at the GPU here, which is less powerful slightly, I think, than the Series S. And it's running at 60 frames per second on PC. So, and then this here, this is the other thing. Steam, $80 or $60 for the Gotham Knights on PC. Series XS and PS5, $70. Locked at 30 frames per second. But yeah, Gotham Knights done 6 days. Are you guys playing it? Are you guys picking it up? Is 30 frames per second something that a complete turnoff? You're not gonna consider it anymore because of that? My chat is breaking here. What is up, guys? What up, Fun Speculation? How you doing? Disappointed in this? Crazy though, the minimum spec PC, which is way lower than the Series X and PS5, can do 1080 60 frames per second at load setting. Yeah, that is the weirdest thing too, because it's obviously some sort of baked in development thing that they chose when developing this for console for some reason. Which, again, I don't understand this. I'm not a developer. I could be completely off on this. But at the end of the day, like, developing for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S, it's not like it was back in the day. It's very similar to just making the games on PC. It's not like when they were making games for the PS3 and like the cell architecture, whatever it was called, that was completely different. Or even before that with the PS2 and the Xbox and the GameCube, it's like, it seems from my understanding is it's very, very similar. So I don't know how they could do this or why they would make this decision. Minimum requires for lesser powered hardware on PC will run this game at 1080p 60 frames per second low setting. They really think we're supposed to believe next gen consoles can't do 60 frames per second. I agree, man. That's it. Like, there's absolutely no reason why they can't. I mean, we've seen all the examples of previous games before, and it almost sounds like they're not even going to be able to put a patch out for this anytime soon to bring performance mode, because you would think that it's just lowering a couple of settings, adding in the performance mode should do the trick, but from what they're making it sound like, it isn't. It isn't that. Habs goal 1-0 versus Capitals. Nice. I thought the Capitals scored, but then it got reversed. I think it was like an offside, but awesome. Good to know, Bane. Thanks for letting me know. I had the game on, and then I turned the game off because I didn't want to ruin the stream. I don't want to pay attention to the game and not to the stream. So happy that they're up 1-0. Thanks for letting me know. What's up, everyone? What's up, Super Duper Man? What's up, DMI7? What's up, Paul? What's up, Void Rat? What's up, Star Traffic? But yeah, let me know in the comments, guys. Are you guys picking up Gotham Knights? I want to know how many people canceled their pre-orders, if they pre-ordered it, and how many people are just weren't excited for it, now definitely aren't getting it, or people who were excited for it, and this is like their biggest turn off for Gotham Knights. I still want to play the game, but I'm gonna see what some of the reviews are saying too. Reviews should be out anytime soon. One of the things with these types of games, or just any game in general, especially big AAA games, I feel like if you're not seeing constant previews, or you're not seeing reviews pretty early on before the game is released, because we know these games have gone gold, they're ready to go. If the embargo for the game is like the day before it releases, generally I feel like the developers are not very confident in the game, and they know that the reviews aren't going to be good. But if they are confident, why not have an embargo where it's like literally a week in advance before the game comes out to get people hyped and excited, which I think would highly increase the sales of the game. And I feel like Gotham Knights we're the 15th, right? When is the 21st? Is that, where are we here? 21st, next Friday. So, maybe the review embargoes are Monday. If they're Monday, it's, I guess, acceptable. You have about 5 days to figure out if you want to pick it up or not. But we'll see how badly 30 FPS hurts the score. We'll see how badly 30 FPS hurts the actual score of it. But yeah, and yeah, it's like play it on PC. I would play it on PC. My thing is, it's just like Xbox is my preferred platform. I want the achievements. I know it's for some people, it may be a stupid reason. I could definitely play it on PC. I have a 2080. I can easily get the 60 frames per second. But I want the achievements. This is the thing. I want the achievements on my profile, which is why that's disappointing. And it's like shortchanging console gamers too. You're getting a worse version of the game for a more expensive price. It doesn't make any sense at all. Seems like most people here are not picking it up or aren't that interested in it. I think parity is the reason this is running at 30 frames per second. Well, parity for what? What are they trying to, like, we've seen the Series S easily be able to run 60 frames per second. So what are they running? What's the parity they're trying to make here on console? You could easily have a game mode with dynamic resolution, 1080p dynamic, right? And easily hit the 60 frames per second, and people would be fine with that. Now, the other side of the coin, I guess the more positive thing we could look at for this is that maybe the graphics are just absolutely incredible. I think it has ray tracing, and it has does it have VRR? But anyways, I think it has ray tracing and 4K, native 4K with ray tracing. So maybe graphically it's going to blow a ton of people away when it comes out, and they'll kind of forget about the 30 frames per second once they're 5 hours into it. Maybe. I don't know. when you're playing a game at 60 frames per second and then you switch to 30 frames per second, that same game, it's impossible to play. It's literally impossible to play. It's so jarring. It ruins, in my opinion, it ruins the experience. But if you started at 30 frames per second and you don't switch it to 60, will it be as jarring? I don't know. I can't think of the last time I've played an entire game at 30 FPS. Maybe I just didn't notice it, to be honest. But yeah, you can definitely tell when you're switching from 30 to 60, no problem. But just a disappointment for a game that was supposed to be a big AAA release this fall. The first one, I think, to really kick it off. And then in 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that, you're going to have God of War Ragnarok on PS5, which I'm very excited for, and Sonic Frontiers, which I'm also very excited for. So those two are, I think, the next one. And then the next week, and 2 weeks before that, you're getting Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So I don't know how Gotham Knights, with this bad PR right now, 30 frames per second, is going to do. We got Paul here with the $5 super chat. Appreciate that, Paul. With the current gen systems, there should be no games running at 30 frames per second. That's just being lazy. Delayed until it's 60 frames per second minimal. Yeah, I mean, I would delay it. I honestly would delay it right now, especially with the backlash. It's too late. The game's on gold. They can't delay it now. But I would delay this game 100% if they could right now to get to 60 frames per second to try to save it. There's going to be a lot of people canceling their pre-orders. There's how I know that people are canceling their pre-orders is because I follow accounts for Canada that post when like stuff's available, PlayStation 5s, Xboxes, special editions of games, and they're all on the ball every time something comes into stock. And today I think I saw like twice that the collector's edition came back into stock. There was 1 unit left. And the only reason why it came back into stock is because that's people canceling their pre-orders for the game. It's not because they got restocked with 1 unit of the collector's edition. It's because people are canceling their pre-orders. Now, to be fair, those got bought up right away because I clicked on the link and they were already sold out. But you're seeing people cancel their pre-orders, and it's in terms of the collector's special edition, it's not going to make a difference. They're still going to sell out of all of those. But in terms of people maybe canceling their digital pre-orders, I think it's going to have a hit on them in terms of their overall sales, like a pretty good hit from the backlash here that we're seeing here on social media and Twitter specifically. But am I going to play it? Yes, I'm going to play the game. Am I going to do an unboxing of my edition? Yes, most likely I'm going to do it. Am I upset that it's 30 frames per second? Of course. I would have loved to have it at 60. I don't really have an excuse. I don't have an excuse. You can call me an idiot. You can call me anything. You're probably right. I don't have an excuse. Why? I probably shouldn't with this news, but I'm going to. I don't know. I was looking forward to it, and I'm just like, it's like one of those games you're looking forward to, and then something bad comes out, and you kind of want to just ignore it because you still want to play it. That's where I am on this right now. But yeah, for a lot of people, I know this is going to hurt. It's definitely going to hurt. Okay, let's jump over here to, what do we got here? Some more interesting news about. So we talk about this on this channel a decent amount. Handheld gaming. Xbox, should they get into handheld gaming? Should they make a handheld? I think a lot of people now want a handheld from Xbox. I think the Nintendo Switch, obviously when that released, showed how many people want to be able to take console quality games on the go with them all the time, with how well that has sold. And then we got the Steam Deck, which is just an absolute incredible device. Absolutely love the Steam Deck. It is honestly, I can't think of a more revolutionary gaming device that I've had since the last time I felt about this, about like a device, has been when we went from OG Xbox to Xbox 360. I walked into a Future Shop, which is like Best Buy in Canada, but now it's Best Buy. There's no more Future Shop. Anyways. And I saw Fight Night on the screen. I remember that moment, and that was one of the most incredible, like blowing me away moments, how crazy the graphics jump was. And actually this generation with the Series X has been pretty good with like the backwards compatibility stuff. That stuff's blown me away with like how good some of these games look on the console. Quick Resume has also been really good. But the Steam Deck, as soon as I got that thing, it is incredible being able to play games like Forza Horizon 5 on your handheld, and it looks good. It's just like, I remember playing the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Color. So anyways, that was pretty incredible. Now we're into more handheld gaming, and there was another announcement. So we have Steam Deck, we have Logitech G Cloud, which is a pure cloud gaming device. And before I continue, I just saw the comment, Paul, I am drinking Innocent Gun right now. Cheers to your Labatt Blue. And now we have this Razer Edge, which is the Android handheld with Xbox Cloud Gaming. We got all the information on it. We saw sneak peeks of this. It essentially looks like the Razer Kishi with a tablet that is installed with the Razer Kishi. Even it looks like literally they just attach it to the side here. But what is this? What is this thing? Where are the specs here? Razer has pitched its latest handheld as a full-fledged mobile gaming companion, providing specifications that run all the latest titles while tapping into the growing list of cloud gaming experience. So right off the bat, I thought this was going to be more of a handheld that was going to be native gaming, but it is going to be a mobile gaming companion, I guess, that you're going to be able to play like Android games on, the top tier Android games. So you're not going to be able to download Xbox Game Pass games onto it. So right there, it's already like, meh, I have zero interest in this at all. I have zero interest in the Logitech G Cloud, and it's because I have the Steam Deck. When they come out with stuff like this, especially for the pricing, we'll get into it further. When we go over the price, we'll go over that. But anyways, it says, it all builds upon Snapdragon G3X Gen 1 gaming platform, explicitly designed with mobile gaming in mind, uniquely positioning the device as a top-tier Android gaming handheld. One thing is, the Logitech G Cloud is an Android gaming handheld as well, because I believe you can download games from the Google Play Store and play them directly on the G Cloud. And how much was the G Cloud? What was it, $250 or something? I gotta remember the price of that, because that's going to be a big comparison that people are going to be doing with these two consoles. So which was the G Cloud $299. I believe that's Canadian. No, that's American. So $299. So keep that in mind. G Cloud is $299, $300. The Razer Edge adopts a two-piece design with a standalone tablet. That's cool that you can take the controllers off, which separates from its Nintendo Switch Joy-Con style controls. Each Razer Edge ships with a Razer Kishi V2 Pro, a revised version of its mobile gamepad, designed to operate as the native controller for the device. The Kishi V2 Pro built upon the existing Kishi and Razer HyperSense haptics. I never tried those, so I wonder if those are any cool. Plus a 3.5mm headphone jack. While companies like Logitech have announced a cloud-geared Android gaming handle, the Razer Edge falls closer to the Steam Deck. So it's closer to the Steam Deck. Hardware to run all games locally. However, that added 5G capability brings flexibility to stream games or take multiplayer experiences on the move. Here's the complete list of technical specifications as provided by Razer. Okay, Android 12, G3X, 128 gigabytes storage, 5,000 milliamp battery. The battery is the biggest thing for me. Oh no, guys. Battery is the biggest thing for me that with the Steam Deck is the biggest drawback. Like if you're playing a game natively on it, you're literally getting maybe 2 hours of gameplay. But when you're actually using like Xbox Cloud Gaming, you can get the game. It's much faster. Or it lasts much longer. So I'm trying to delete these spam comments at the same time of thinking. But Razer has stated it plans to launch the Razer Edge in January of 2023 with a 5G and separate Wi-Fi model planned both at the time. So one thing I'm kind of confused here about this when I'm reading through this is they're saying it falls closer to the Steam Deck and can with hardware to run all games locally. So can you download Game Pass games on it? Can you play these Game Pass games, and will they be able to run well compared to what we see on the Steam Deck? Because I know with the Steam Deck, I install Windows on it, use Xbox Game Pass natively, and the games they're obviously running at lower settings, but they run well, they look good, and it works very, very well. But they're saying here that it's closer to the Steam Deck. So there's going to be the 5G and the separate Wi-Fi model. And the price is going to be $400. So it's going to be $100 less than the Logitech G Cloud. Which for me, if this is a handheld that can actually do more than just stream some big AAA games, actually download them and you can play them, why in the world would anybody want to pick up the Logitech G Cloud for $299? I feel like the G Cloud is kind of, it's placed in such a weird area, such a weird segment of the market for $299. If it was $199, that would be perfect. But $299 right now with the pre-sale, without the pre-sale, they're saying it's like $350 for something that's going to be streaming pretty much everything. I don't know. I don't think that the G Cloud is going to be able to survive very long with stuff like this coming out. But again, we don't know how well this runs games, and if you're going to have to resort to cloud gaming for the majority of the big AAA games. So I don't know, $399, and it comes out in January of 2023. Another handheld. So I guess the biggest thing here out of this is that we are seeing a lot more handheld gaming devices come out. We're seeing a lot more handheld gaming devices focus and position themselves with Xbox and Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming. And it's enticing for a lot of people if you're able to play Game Pass games on a handheld, which makes you start to think, should Xbox ever bring out a handheld? Something I think a lot of people have talked about, something I think that I don't think is likely, is because you can see what Xbox is doing with partnering with all of these different companies like Razer, like Logitech, like Samsung. We saw Project Keystone leaked on Phil Spencer's desk behind him, the little streaming box, and they would rather just partner with all of these hardware companies that are going to be able to make these products and then make some sort of marketing deal where you're thinking about Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming on those devices and getting you into their ecosystem that way than making their own native handheld. But if they were to make their own native handheld, I think the way to go would be the way of the Steam Deck, where you can actually natively play these games on the device. But $399, if it can actually play some bigger games downloaded from Xbox Game Pass on it, it's a pretty good deal, because I believe the Steam Deck is quite a bit more. It's hard because I always think about it in Canadian prices. My Steam Deck was like $650. So what was the American? Probably $499. You probably can get a Steam Deck for $499. It's another extra $100. But if you're trying to choose between getting this G Cloud or Steam Deck and you can afford any of them, the Steam Deck is 100% the way to go, especially with all of the customizability you can have on it. I mean, this is probably going to be, it's Android based. It's going to be locked to Android. It's probably not going to be nearly as easy to install and customize it and tinker with it as a Steam Deck is. As Valve literally came out with the Steam Deck and showed you how to kind of like mod it, replace parts, all that type of stuff. So I don't know. It's just essentially a handheld tablet, an Android tablet with the Razer Kishi controllers attached to it. Most people are going to be probably using this for cloud gaming. You could just literally buy the attachment controllers and put it on your phone. The big question is, how is this going to run games natively? That's it. I think that's the biggest question that we don't know yet, or at least I haven't seen yet. But if it's mostly cloud gaming, $399, it's so priced out. I don't know why you'd want to spend $400 on this. Maybe for some people. For me, definitely not. Definitely not something I'd be interested in whatsoever. What do you guys think about this? Do you think Xbox is getting into cloud gaming anytime, or cloud gaming, handheld gaming anytime soon? How many times do you need to upgrade your phone? You're getting more FPS resolution, etc. So best way, I think, just buy a Razer Kishi V2. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Some people's phones are going to be as powerful as this at some point. Or maybe they already are. Like, I don't even know. I know there's like the Asus or Asus ROG gaming phones. Like, how are those? And they keep releasing those. How do those compare to this? Because if you're going to have to buy something like this, or you're going to buy a smartphone that's going to have a lot more productivity to it, probably just buy a smartphone than buy the controllers that you can attach onto it. I think Microsoft should get into the handheld business. I'm thinking about getting a Steam Deck, but going to wait 6 months to see if anything else is on the horizon. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. I mean, I don't know. Steam Deck right now, from everything that they have announced and that they've been releasing so far with like the G Cloud and this, Steam Deck, I think is just like still way better. Thing is, obviously, it's a PC. PC gets outdated really fast, right? There's going to be a Steam Deck 2 coming out probably in like a year or two, whenever. There's going to be another Steam Deck. There's going to be ways to get something like the Steam Deck that is just more powerful and runs games better relatively fast because of how quickly technology advances, right? One thing about the Steam Deck is that you're going to be able to take it apart. You're going to be able to add stuff to it. You're going to be able to tinker with it and probably make it better than it currently is, which is a good thing. Hesitant about buying the G Cloud, but ended up purchasing the Steam Deck. I think that's a good decision, Jesse. I think that's a good decision. The Steam Deck is awesome, like I said. And now you can just buy the Steam Deck. There's no more wait list. How well the Valve worked through the backlog and just crazy. They did good. Can you get a Steam Deck at Best Buy? I don't think so. I haven't been into a Best Buy in a while, but I don't think so. I believe you have to order it online. But you go through your Steam account, you can order it right through there. It's once you get your order in, they ship it really fast. A couple days, you get it. Do you believe the CMA is believing Sony's concerns about the ABK deal? What's crazy about this is that all this drama is over one IP. All of this is over COD. Do I believe the CMA is believing Sony's concerns? Well, they are somewhat. They have to be. They went to stage 2, right? They have to be believing some of it. And they're still investigating it. Brazil went to... Did Brazil go to stage 2? Or was Brazil still in stage 1? I think Brazil was in stage 1. Sony complained. We saw what the complaint was. Brazil said it was bullshit. And they approved the deal. If that's how it worked, then the CMA must be believing what Sony is selling. Or you can go full conspiracy and Sony has some sort of, under the table deal with the UK and CMA because they know it's probably their best chance to block this deal. Who knows? Obviously, that's probably not the case, but like you could go full conspiracy on it because some of the things that we've been seeing via the CMA and the stuff that they are doing is like, or their reasoning behind going to stage 2 is just absolutely absurd. As you can see, we're already jumping into the CMA topic here because it's literally the biggest thing everybody has been talking about has been Activision Blizzard and the CMA and what's going on with that. Like, it's pretty crazy. I can't remember the last time I've seen this within gaming. But yeah, Super Duperman. Yeah, Brazil is how it started, but Brazil is also, they had a logical conclusion to it, right? They had a logical conclusion. You can't, like, it makes complete sense for all of these regulators to go and ask third parties what they think about it. That makes complete, absolute sense. Like, 100%, they should do that. They should go out to the industry, ask what everyone thinks about this, and they should take all of their responses seriously and look at them. But the issue that obviously we're running, that like the CMA is hitting a roadblock with, is that they're looking at some of the stuff Sony is selling them and they're thinking that, oh, okay, this really makes a lot of sense what they are saying. We have to continue to investigate this further. And some of the responses that they've put out have been ridiculous, because you can tell that they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Absolutely no idea what's going on. No idea what in the video game industry. They've talked about the Nintendo Switch and all that type of stuff. Like Lucius says here, CMA differentiating Nintendo from the rest of the video game market while stating COD is essential to survive in the video game market is insane. It's like they just copy and pasted what Sony said. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, COD has been was on Nintendo platforms for a long time. And Call of Duty Ghosts was the last one on the Wii U. So, are they buying what Sony's saying? Yeah, they are. I would say yes, they are. They have to be. We'll see what happens. If all this could be for now. They may just go ahead and approve the deal. They're just doing their full due diligence. But let's go further into this. So obviously, this is the main main thing here. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, I do want to quickly talk about this, because I totally forgot to bring this up, and it would have been a very good segue to when we were talking about Gotham Knights and 30 frames per second. So apparently, it's a rumor, take it with a large grain of salt, but a PS4 Pro and new Xbox dev kits are in devs' hands. So this says here, reputable data miner and freaking Rockstar Games Insider Test 2 has stated on the GTA forums that a new mid-gen upgrade dev kits, presumably meaning the PS5 Pro and a new Xbox Series X, are in the hands of developers. In response to another GTA forum user, Test 2 has said most AAA studios should have received dev kits of mid-life upgrades and should receive them by the start of a new year. Now, we've heard about stuff like this. We saw, it's actually down here. We saw the TCL thing where they said new Xbox Series X and S and PS5 Pros are coming in 2023, 2024. I think for most people, when we saw this, it was just TCL trying to sell their TVs, right? Trying to sell them like for the future, having people be excited for what their next product line is, to be able to support these big, powerful next generation consoles. This was back in May, and now we're seeing this where there's a leaker saying that they actually have dev kits in hand for upgraded PS5s and Xbox Series X's. They say here that it's understood that the new console, exclusively reported by Insider Gaming, will have almost the same hardware components as the original PlayStation 5. Now, the other thing we have heard about is PlayStation 5 releasing a new console, but not having a disc drive and only having one SKU, and then having a detachable disc drive to it, so you can still play all your games, and then selling that for like an extra $100. So potentially could be this that they're thinking about, that he's talking about. They would have the exact same hardware though, but they're apparently this one's going to have slight upgrades, which would make that one be counted out as the console that they're talking about here. It says here, however, due to sensitivity of the information, sources were unable to give exact specifications on what could or is being upgraded for that console. Sony's planning to produce 30.5 million consoles. So they want to produce 30.5 million consoles in the fiscal year of 2023, which is crazy because 18.5 million of those are going to be the new one with the detachable hard drive. And I think honestly, we know that they've gone with the smaller 6nm chip. They can put more on a wafer. They can just be able to produce more consoles because of that. We saw that with the new 2022 PS5s. I think Austin Evans, his teardown video, they finally discovered the reason why it's pulling less power and running cooler is because they have that smaller 6nm chip in there. And you take that, you're able to shrink everything that's within the console. You're able to make it cheaper to produce, and then you're going to remove the disk drive from production. You're only going to have one SKU. Will they hit 30.5 million in production? I don't know, but I think it'll make it easier because of all these small little changes they have been making for the last 3 years, which would be like massive for PlayStation to be able to do that, because literally that's the only way that people are playing in their ecosystem is through the PS5, right? Obviously on PC too now with their releases, but it's just not as prominent as with Xbox when every single game that they put out first party is coming to PC as well. So I think I could see with their strategy, what they're doing going forward, that could happen. But at the same time, it seems like from what they're doing, they're setting themselves up. They're getting ready for a slimmer version of the PS5, which I hope that is coming. I hope they focus less on a diskless PS5 with a detachable hard drive and more on a slim version of the PS5 if they're able to get it to run cooler with all of the changes that they have made. Because the PS5, I have it right here, right beside me. It's gargantuan, and it is ugly as hell. I don't care what anyone says. They say here the new console will replace the current systems and likely be on the market for a similar price as the current digital edition. Okay, that's cool. With the detachable disc drive coming separately or in a bundle. For this reason, Insider Gaming believes that this new PlayStation 5 is just a standard PlayStation 5 console aimed at the $400 to $500 price point. In addition, Insider Gaming reported production numbers did not include any PlayStation 5 Pro consoles, which could indicate a release during the fiscal year 2024 or after. Going back to Test 2 claims, it's not uncommon for developers to get their hands on such hardware a couple of years before public release. And Test 2's claims could be accurate, but as of yet, we are unable to verify them with our own sources. So again, keep this with a grain of, or take this with a grain of salt. That's some sort of PS5 Pro with some upgraded hardware inside that's going to make it a more powerful console is coming, but there are apparently dev kits going around right now. And they say here, and new Xbox dev kits are in devs' hands. And I don't know what that would mean. I'm of the opinion that, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think we've come close to seeing, or it still seems like pretty much we haven't seen a real truly next gen insane looking game, right? Like it still seems like we're like a half gen upgrade, I guess you could say. The one thing that the series consoles have done that does make actually feel like we are in a brand new, well, and the PS5 too, console generation is the load times, but the series in particular is stuff like the quality of life features, like quick resume. Like all of that backwards compatibility stuff that they've added in, that like the FPS boost to some of these old games, and all of that stuff, just the quality of life features, just handling the console, how much more enjoyable it is to not sit through 2 minutes of load times. All of that stuff does feel like next gen, but in terms of like graphically and the way some of these games look, there are some beautiful looking games out there. Don't get me wrong, there are some absolutely gorgeous, beautiful looking games, but it still just feels like it's just like that slow progression from right now that we're going through. And I feel like in terms of consoles, we're going to always be at that for a very long time. It's never going to be like that absolutely mind-blowing moment like I talked about earlier, where it's like when I walked into Future Shop, which is no longer in Canada, and I saw Fight Night on the Xbox 360. That was a mind-blowing moment when it came to video games for me, because it was like night and day from the OG Xbox to the 360. And we'll never see that again, but like these consoles are still so much in their infancy. They've been 2 years. To think that we're going to be getting a Pro version already, is it even needed? I don't even think it's needed, especially for the Xbox Series X. I don't think it's needed. What I think they could do is maybe release a discless, a digital Series X. That would probably be a relatively smart move. And I also kind of like the idea of having a detachable hard drive. I do like that. I know if PlayStation does that, I think that is a pretty good idea. And I hope Xbox does that as well, just for the Series S specifically. Because I have physical games. Like whenever I buy collector's editions of games, they're physical, right? For the most part. Unless you're buying PlayStation collector's editions, which they give you a digital version, which is absolutely absurd. But anyways, I would love to play those games on my Series S. With a detachable disk drive. So we'll see how this works out. I think it's a smart move by PlayStation if they do that. If they just scrap the disk drive version and sell the detachable hard drive or disk drive for it. It'll just make it easier to produce. And hey, maybe they will hit that 30.5 million, but we'll see. They have to. The thing with PlayStation is they have to hit that 30.5 million. They have to hit that production number because they're screwed if they don't. They don't have that ecosystem strategy that Xbox has. one of the most interesting things that I found with the pandemic and the chip shortage and all of the things that held production up in the world was that Xbox was sitting pretty from that, because they're like, well, we're selling out every console that we have, but because we have such a ecosystem that can be accessed anywhere, we're not hurting from it nearly as much. PlayStation was definitely hurting from that, from not being able to produce as much. All right, what's up, guys? Let's see. And we're gonna get to the ABK stuff now after I read through some of these comments. I know that's the hottest topic. All right. What we got here? What's up, Jay Dillinger? The point of current gen consoles was for performance is 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, leave 30 in the past. I agree. Gotta leave 30 in the past on consoles. I think the worst thing too is that they're making console gamers feel less in the way that they're charging $10 more but giving you a shittier version. But you know what? Like I said, if you were here at the beginning, I was disappointed. I was sad. I'm still going to play the game. I know it's hypocritical, but I'm interested in Gotham Knights. I like that universe. I like Batman. Maybe I'm an idiot, but they have me on that. So hopefully when their reviews come out, they say that the gameplay is good, the story is good, it's a fun game to play. 30 frames per second sucks. That's my hope. We have Nanfudos here with a counter. Yes, but few notice. Gamers stopping on frames per second is funny. Every game does not need 60 and 120 frames per second. So I caught it. So I'm not just trying to be the agreeable person here. I kind of agree with both you guys here. I do believe 30 frames per second should be in the past. If they could do it for every single game, do it. I wouldn't care less. Get rid of 30 frames per second. However, the medium was 30 frames per second. And I found that a game like the medium did not hinder my experience at all with 30 frames per second. I thought it was great at 30 frames per second. If it was 60 frames per second, I don't think it would have made an ounce of a difference with a game like that at all. So yeah, there is a place for just, if you are deciding to prioritize just absolutely incredible visuals and keep it at 30 frames per second. I don't think Gotham Knights is that game though. I think Gotham Knights is a game that you're expecting kind of fast-paced combat. You're on vehicles, you're flying around. You're going to want 60 frames per second, right? Am I crazy? Will it even matter if Sony has agreements for games for an equal on Xbox too if the console has more power? Well, it will matter. It will matter for first-party games. It will matter for that massive catalog of games that Xbox has, especially when they get ABK. It will matter, yeah. It will matter. There'll be certain games, if that's a clause that a developer wants to sign on to and just be an idiot about it, I guess it won't matter for those games. But yeah, it will still matter for sure. But I just don't see, like, how are they going to sell an Xbox Series X2 or an Xbox Pro Series Pro X Series Pro? I don't know. That's just the name. But anyways, how are they going to sell that? Because you're not even getting the full potential right now out of the Series X. And one of the things that they sold, which I don't think developers have fully taken advantage of yet, and they still can, is like the AI machine learning stuff, to make sure frame rates are still smooth and while having high fidelity graphics, right? That's going to solve a lot of issues. So I don't know how they're going to sell it, and what price would they even sell that at? Like if they're going to be selling an Xbox Series X Pro for $600 US, right? Who's going to how are they going to provide value for that console to the consumer? I don't see it happening. Even in 2024. Honestly, I don't see it happening then. Honestly, I don't see the point of a slim model when the Series X and PS5 have yet to get on shelves. They're being sold so fast. That's the thing. I thought about that too, but at the same time, if they were to just cease production of the current PS5 specifically and just replace all future models with the slim version of the PS5, it makes sense to do because they would still be saving money on producing those consoles while giving the customer a better looking and a better console than this big gargantuan PS5 that they have right now. So I can see a slim model makes sense. A pro model doesn't really make sense, but a slim model I think makes sense. All right. What's up, Sam? I refuse to purchase and play games on console if they're capped at 30 frames per second. I'll buy it on PC instead, where frame rate isn't capped. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be going that way. I think a lot of people will be going that way. Probably a pretty smart decision if the 30 frames per second is something that you're just absolutely throwing you off from playing. Cinema is 24 frames per second and no one complains. No one even notices. I think it's a different experience. I think cinema and gaming is just a different experience. It's hard because you 100% notice 30 to 60. But like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if it's going to be different if it's like for example, I don't know. There's so many games that have that 30 frames per second mode and 60 frames per second mode. And if you've started playing the game for a couple hours in 60 FPS and then you go to 30 frames per second, it's so jarring, it's impossible to continue playing. You have to go back to 60. If you start the game in 30 frames per second and you haven't experienced it in 60 frames per second, you probably won't notice it as much, but I'm sure if you played a bunch of other games in 60 FPS, you still will feel that sluggishness. I don't know. Do you hear that Sony gamers are upset on Twitter that Persona 3 and Persona 4 are getting Xbox Series S and X next-gen versions and PS5 is not? Well, I saw that was happening. I'm not surprised Sony gamers are upset, and haven't seen the upset Sony gamers, but yeah, I'd be upset. It's a game that was exclusively on their platform for so long, a game that continuously was thrown in the face of Xbox gamers because they didn't have it, and now you're getting it. You're not going to have the better version. Xbox is going to have the better version, and it's on Xbox Game Pass. So yeah, I mean, sign up to Game Pass, get the better version. All right, let's talk about ABK. Let's talk about ABK. Let's talk about the deal, what's been going on, CMA, all that stuff. I know it's been probably getting old for a lot of people because everyone's been talking about it nonstop, but it's pretty absurd what's going on here. And there's so much. There's a 76-page document where they go into depth about everything. But then there's this 15-page document where they give more of an overview of their reasoning behind everything. Let's go through it. I know this may be kind of long. I'm not going to read through everything, but let's go through this 15-page kind of summary of their reasoning, their issue statement, whatever, of going to phase 2, investigating this deal, and all that type of stuff. So buckle in. This may take a little bit of time. Well, let's get to it. So this is their issue statement: anticipated acquisition of Microsoft Corporation of Activision Blizzard. Published 14th of October 2022. On 15th of September, the Competition and Markets Authority, as the CMA, in exercise of its duty under Section 331 of the Enterprise Act 2002, referred the anticipated acquisition by Microsoft of Activision Blizzard for further investigation and report by a group of CMA panel members, the inquiry group. Microsoft and Activision are together referred to as parties, okay, and for statements referring to the future, the merged entity. All right. One second here. Okay. So they talk about in exercise of duty under Section 36(1) of the Act, the CMA must decide whether arrangements are in progress or in contemplation, which, if carried into effect, will result in the creation of a relevant merger situation, and if so, whether the creation of that relevant merger situation may be expected to result in a substantial lessening of competition. So this is the thing that they continuously talk about through this document, and it is SLC, substantial lessening of competition. That's what they're focusing on. They want to decide if Microsoft purchasing Activision Blizzard, if they approve this deal, will it lessen the competition? Specifically, how badly will it hurt PlayStation? I mean, that's essentially what this entire thing is. They say result in SLC within any market or markets in the United Kingdom for goods and services. Okay, so the purpose of this issue statement is to consider reaching a decision if there's going to be a substantial lessening of competition. They've gone through phase 1, which they have a lot of detailed background information about everything that's been going on with the deal. They did an investigation. They did information gathering for further evidence. They asked third parties for information. They go over the parties, talk about Microsoft here, and they say basically what Microsoft is about: the technology company, productivity, business, intelligent cloud, and more personalized computing. Talk about the different divisions. We know one of the biggest divisions for them is Azure, which I think is going to be like their most important division because it is their cloud platform, which they make deals with other companies with. I believe that they made a deal with PlayStation, a partnership to be able to use their cloud services and cloud gaming. But apparently Xbox cloud gaming is not run off of Azure. I think that was one of the things that Microsoft countered with. That's like, it's not even a valid argument because it's not even running off of Azure. So take that for what you will, but Xbox cloud gaming is going to be a massive part of Xbox going forward. It's going to be probably their main, I think what they're trying to set themselves up where Xbox cloud gaming is where most people are playing Xbox in the next 10 years or so. I think that's what they're going for. Once internet becomes just so like good enough everywhere, easily accessible everywhere, I think that's what their end goal is at the end of everything, which means that that's why they're putting Xbox cloud gaming on literally every device. We even saw this week in a video that I had made where Microsoft mentions that PlayStation blocked Xbox cloud gaming from coming onto their platform. And they were using that as an argument as to CMA saying that they're going to have a monopoly or a big competitive advantage with cloud gaming because there's no real big cloud competitors out there, which obviously is false. We've seen there were Stadia, they failed. Nothing to do with Xbox. They just failed at what they did. They didn't provide value. They had great streaming, a great streaming platform in terms of the quality they provided, but like they didn't provide any value to the customer with getting people to want to sign up to Stadia over use other gaming platforms. And I think it's also showing that the entire video game industry as a whole isn't ready for cloud gaming yet. There are people that enjoy cloud gaming. There are people that use cloud gaming. I use cloud gaming occasionally, but more people still enjoy gaming natively on a console, downloading the game and playing it off of that, downloading it on a PC and playing it off of that, downloading games on their phone and playing it off that. More people, way more people, I think, are still into that. So cloud gaming is still so early and it's going to grow. We're just not there yet. So saying that like Xbox is going to just be able to stomp out any cloud gaming competition right now is absurd. I mean, Stadia didn't fail because of Xbox. They failed because they failed because of themselves. They failed because they had a service that just didn't provide enough value and not enough people wanted to use it. That's pretty much it. Anyways, to talk about the other divisions: Xbox Game Studios, digital distribution, and gaming subscription services. Microsoft offers multi-game subscription services that include access to first and third-party games. We know what it is, right? Gold, Game Pass, cloud gaming, all that type of stuff. And then they talk about Activision. They go over the merger as well. Basically talking about the agreement, the price they paid for it, some of the games that are going to be coming, like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush Saga. They talk about how improved Microsoft's presence in the mobile segment where Activision holds an established position, particularly through King. We know this is a massive thing that Xbox is doing, or that they want from this deal, is a bigger mobile presence. It's going to be huge. This is going to be the biggest thing. We look at Call of Duty coming onto console, but the biggest thing that Xbox is getting out of this deal is mobile gaming. King, Candy Crush, Call of Duty Mobile, Diablo Immortal, Warzone Mobile. Like, that is by far the biggest win for Xbox, I would say, for their platform, the amount of money that they're going to make. And Call of Duty is huge, but we know Call of Duty is still staying on PlayStation. We know Call of Duty is still staying on their platforms, which still is a smart move because those platforms just pay Xbox to invest further into Game Pass, into the Xbox ecosystem. So their inquiry. Below, we set out some specific areas that we intend to assess in order to help parties who wish to make representations to us. We shall consider the question of jurisdiction in our inquiry. A relevant merger situation exists where the following conditions are satisfied. 2 or more enterprises have ceased to be distinct. Okay, that's just saying that basically 2 companies become one company. That is a merger. So they're going to compare the prospects of competition resulting from the merger against the competitive situation without the merger. I mean, this is the biggest thing, right? What's the market like before? What's the market like after the merger? The latter is called the counterfactual. The counterfactual is not a statutory test, but rather an analytical tool used in answering the question of whether a merger gives rise to SLC. And as we know, SLC, lessening of competition. What's the first word here? Substantial lessening of competition. So that's the main thing, like I said, that they are looking for in their investigations into this deal. Substantial lessening of competition. Counterfactual may consist of prevailing conditions of competition or conditions of competition that involve stronger or weaker competition between the merger firms than under the prevailing conditions of competition. So they're just basically laying out their, I guess, their criteria of looking at SLC. In its phase 1 decision, the CMA found no evidence supporting a different counterfactual other than the prevailing conditions of competition. We currently intend to adopt the prevailing conditions of competition as the most likely counterfactual to the merger, but welcome any evidence on this part of our assessment. So we're looking at competition. As we know, Satya Nadella said, let's compete. CMA doesn't seem to want to let them compete from what we're reading in their decision. Market definition, theories of harm. Let's get to the counterfactual here. Input for closure of rival multi-game subscription services. Okay, so here's some. There we go. I'm getting to it. Okay, countervailing factors. Okay, so they go over a lot. They go over a lot of stuff here in terms of their counterfactual reasons for the substantial lessening of competition, reasons that were put forward, obviously, by PlayStation, by Sony. We've seen the stuff that they have put out. And they say here, in its phase 1 decision, the CMA found that the merger gave rise to a realistic prospect of a substantial lessening of competition. I like saying that because it's like such an important reason as to what this entire thing is about. As a result of vertical effects arising from Microsoft withholding or degrading Activision's content, including popular games such as COD from other consoles or multi-game subscription services, and Microsoft leveraging its broader ecosystem together with Activision Games catalog to strengthen network effects, raise barriers to entry, and ultimately foreclose rivals in cloud gaming services. So these 2 points here. First of all, we already know we've seen these points. Withholding or degrading Activision's content. Withholding, they've already said they're putting the games onto PlayStation. We know that. When you play Xbox, you play literally anywhere. You can play on any device. It's the only platform right now out of the big 3, if we want to just look at Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, that gives gamers a choice of where they want to play their games, or at least multiple choices. Again, we have to be fair. PlayStation has they have started bringing their games onto PC, so we can't ignore that. But it's still not even close to like the value that you get with the Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming. So right away, it's like if they would have just did 5 seconds, a 5-second Google search, they would know that point makes absolutely no sense. leveraging its broader ecosystem together with Activision games to strengthen network effects, raise barriers to entry, and ultimately foreclose rivals in cloud gaming services. So I guess they're arguing with companies, I guess, if you think about Stadia, people would never sign up to something like Stadia because what's the point? Xbox has the best cloud gaming service. They have the most games. They have the most value. The response to that, I would say, is these companies have to compete. That's the whole point of this. Thinking that Call of Duty is or Activision Blizzard games are the only games that are going to get people over to a cloud gaming service, it's absolutely absurd. It's an absolutely absurd take by a massive market authority, thinking that that's going to be the thing that ends other cloud gaming services. We know Microsoft's $1 trillion company. I get it. But there are other companies. You can't tell me that Google, just a huge company, almost as big, right? They are one of the most powerful companies in the entire world. You can't tell me that if they wanted to, they couldn't do the same things that Xbox and Microsoft are doing. If they wanted to take a bunch of resources, take billions of dollars and invest it into gaming, they couldn't go out and buy a ton of publishers. They couldn't go out and create a ton of studios and make these huge, compelling games that people want to play and come over to Google Stadia for. You can't convince me that they couldn't do that. They definitely could do that if they wanted to compete. They obviously didn't want to compete. They got into cloud gaming. They got into video games and okay, this is not as profitable as we thought it was going to be. So let's just end it now and let's stick to what we're good at, which is mobile gaming with Google Play. So I don't know. What barriers are they raising? I'm not sure. Maybe deterring I guess because Sony's a far smaller company. That's the only thing I can think of, right? Nintendo's surviving. They're out here doing their thing, but they also mentioned that, I think I have a tweet here where they talk about it, where they mention how Nintendo it can't be compared. It's a different style of company. We are currently intent to focus our competitive assessment on these theories of harm at phase 2. So these are the two main things that they're going to be looking at in phase 2 going forward. Vertical effects may arise when a merger involves firms at different levels of the supply chain. For example, a merger between a firm and an upstream supplier or a downstream customer. In certain circumstances, vertical mergers can weaken rivalry. For example, when they result in foreclosure of the merged firm's competitors. So why don't they just say here, for example, when they result in foreclosure of Sony, of PlayStation, of the PlayStation division at Sony? It's not going to happen. It's so absurd. It's not going to happen. PlayStation isn't going to close down because this deal goes through. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, sure, they're going to not make as much money. They're not going to make as much money off of Call of Duty. They're going to be paying Xbox for Call of Duty rights. And those royalties are going to be invested directly into Xbox Game Pass, and Xbox is going to be able to take that money and continue to add more awesome games for Xbox gamers. But PlayStation is still going to do what they do. They're still going to make first-party games that people enjoy playing. They're still going to have their marketing deals with third-party games, which is where they make the most amount of their money. And they're going to still have exclusive content from third parties, exclusive things like they're doing with Hogwarts Legacy, which are going to get people to go over and buy the PlayStation version. They're still going to have the PlayStation Network where they control all the pricing, and they're going to push and funnel as many people into that as the only way to be able to play their games. And they're going to make a ton of money off of that. They're going to be fine. PlayStation is going to be fine. They're going to still charge an extra $10 for their games, and the Sony fanboys are going to run out and pay it no matter what, even if it's a remake of a game for the third time. They're going to still do all of those practices that are going to make them a ton of money because they have brand loyalty that is exceptional. That's the truth. They have incredible brand loyalty that they've built up over generations. Now, I was a PlayStation fan back in the day, but I've seen what PlayStation has been doing over the last couple of years or so, and my enjoyment of the way that they, I guess, treat customers isn't there anymore. It's not nearly as I used to love PlayStation. I have had every PlayStation console since they've released, but they take advantage of their customers, take advantage of that brand loyalty. They don't provide, like, you look what Xbox is doing. Yeah, I guess you could argue that Xbox has to kind of catch up with creating that brand loyalty after an Xbox One generation that wasn't up to par for a lot of people. But at the same time, they've gone, I think, above and beyond with a lot of the stuff that they are doing. And you don't generally expect that of a $1 trillion corporation to have that great customer value, but they've been doing that, and that's why people love Xbox right now. That's the biggest reason I would say people love Xbox. It's just the value they bring to their consumers, and it can't be beaten anywhere else. Continue on here. In assessing a foreclosure theory of harm, the CMA's approach is to consider whether 3 cumulative conditions are satisfied. Ability. Would the merged entity have the ability to use its control of inputs or to restrict rivals' access to a customer, to harm the competitiveness or incentive to compete of its rivals? Incentives. Would it have the incentive actually to do so? Would it be profitable? Effect. Would the foreclosure of these rivals substantially lessen overall competition? So 1, ability. Could Xbox do it? Absolutely. They absolutely could do it if they wanted to. No doubt about it. If they wanted to take Call of Duty, delete every single version of Call of Duty off of PlayStation now and going forward, they could absolutely do that. But we've previously seen in the past, they haven't done that. You look at Minecraft, it's still on everything. You look at Deathloop, you look at Ghostwire Tokyo. I mean, they could have, if they wanted to, paid a fine to cancel those deals, and it would have been pennies, right? Like, it would have probably not been that much money for them. They didn't do it. Look at Bethesda. One of the things they argue in their argument towards stopping this deal is that first-party games currently within Xbox are not on other platforms or not on other subscription platforms. It's like you could have taken 5 seconds and Googled how many Bethesda games are currently within PlayStation Plus or have been on PlayStation Plus. And they're going to continue with stuff like Elder Scrolls Online that are staying on all these other platforms, right? They've already said that. So could they? Yes. Will they? No. Incentive. Would it have incentive to actually do so? Would it be profitable? It wouldn't be profitable for a game like Call of Duty. I don't think it would be. At least right now, it would not be profitable to take it off the platform. And the effect with the foreclosure of these rivals substantially lessen overall competition. Of course. Nobody wants PlayStation to well, I'm sure some people want PlayStation to absolutely go away. I don't. It would hurt competition greatly. So one of the big things why a lot of people want this deal to go through is because it's like, this is so big. There's so many IPs that Xbox is going to own on top of what they already have with Bethesda. It's literally going to force PlayStation to get out of that stupid virtuous cycle. They're going to have to get out of that virtuous cycle. We're already seeing them get out of the dumb virtuous cycle that Jim Ryan keeps talking about. They're starting to make live service games. They're going to start making more IPs, more games for different genres that appeal to more gamers. They're already starting to do that because of the competition increasing. If it wasn't for competition increasing, we wouldn't get that. We would be getting the 5th remake of The Last of Us next year. That's literally what would be happening if there was no competition. And when I say 5th, because they would release a 4th one halfway through the year and then a 5th one by the end of the year. In the following sections, we consider how these 3 cumulative conditions were considered to apply to the theories of harm in the CMA's Phase 1 decision, and how the CMA proposes to investigate them further in Phase 2. So I guess this is how they're investigating them. In the Phase 1 decision, the CMA found that there was a realistic prospect of an SLC, substantial lessening of competition, in gaming consoles together with their digital storefronts as a result of the merged entity engaging in foreclosure strategies such as making Activision content unavailable on rival consoles, exclusive to Xbox, making Activision content available for release on rival console gaming platforms at a later date compared to Xbox, timed exclusivity, degrading the quality of Activision gaming content available to rival console gaming platforms, making features or upgrades or Activision games unavailable to other console gaming platforms, i.e. content exclusivity, and/or raising the wholesale price of Activision content on rival consoles and gaming platforms. This is one of the most absurd things to actually read, and this clearly shows these people who are looking at this have absolutely no understanding of the video game industry. Zero. Not even an ounce of understanding, because everything that they mentioned in those points are literally everything that Sony does currently right now, and they still do it. I mean, I remember when this went to phase 2, Sony literally put out an ad, advertising exclusive content for Call of Duty on PlayStation that you would have to get a PlayStation to access. And they're saying that these are the things that led to them coming to this decision for phase 1. It's just absolutely absurd. They literally didn't even take a second to Google anything that Sony fed them. It's actually crazy to think about. But literally everything, like making Activision content unavailable on rival consoles. I mean, PlayStation is the king of console exclusivity. Making Activision content available for release on rival console gaming platforms at a later date. PlayStation is the king of timed exclusivity. One of the worst practices, I think. I think it's an absolutely terrible practice. Xbox has done it too, don't get me wrong, but PlayStation is the king of it. Degrading the quality of Activision gaming content available to rival gaming platforms. So this one, I don't know how much this happens. I know we've seen stuff about like parity in terms of the game, how it looks, how it runs. I'm drawing a blank. Was it with Resident Evil that they did this? I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments. I think there was something where PlayStation had a clause where the games had to be similar or had to be the exact same. They couldn't run better on Xbox, something like that. Or that could just be like something I read that I was completely off about. So don't quote me on that. But there's no way. I don't think in any way Xbox would do that. I just don't see them doing it. Why would they? Because why would you go out of your way to create a clause to degrade content available on PlayStation specifically when the games that they are going to be putting out are going to be accessed on all of these different specs of PCs through cloud gaming, through people's Logitech G Cloud, like all of these different platforms where obviously everyone's going to have a different version of the game, like in terms of how it looks and how it runs. Why would they put a clause in place just to make it worse on PlayStation? It makes absolutely no sense. There's no incentive for Xbox to ever do that. It just doesn't make any sense. Making features or upgrades of Activision games available to other console gaming platforms. Content exclusively. Like PlayStation does all the time. I mean, they did it with Hogwarts Legacy with an exclusive quest. Like, come on. This is crazy that they actually thought of these things as the reason to coming to this decision. Raising the wholesale price of Activision content on rival gaming platforms. This one, I don't know. I mean, they could do it. I doubt they would do it. They want to get the game out to as many people as possible. Why would they reduce that incentive? Again, doesn't make any sense. In relation to ability, the CMA found that the merged entity would have significant upstream market power in publishing games for consoles. Of course, I mean, they're going to own one of the biggest game every single year. They're going to be able to, if they decided to put the game on Xbox, sure. But they've already said they're keeping it on PlayStation. Activision's content is an important input for PlayStation. Okay, great. But they lost this competition for Activision. Go out and make something that's just as important, right? Go out and compete. Go out and make a game that will bring them as much money as Call of Duty has brought them. Make a deal with Xbox. Do business, right? Why does that even matter? Why does that point even matter? An economically significant number of PlayStation gamers could switch to Xbox if Activision's content were no longer available or not available on equal terms on PlayStation, something that PlayStation's already done with Call of Duty. How many people do you think went from Xbox to PlayStation since 2015 because of the exclusive content that PlayStation had on Call of Duty? We don't know the number, but I'm telling you, it's probably a ton of people. So again, another absurd point. There are few, if any, alternative franchises with COD's level of brand awareness and popularity amongst gamers. Hence why PlayStation paid all that money for all the marketing rights and then kept content exclusives to get people away from other platforms to play it on their platform. But now, because Xbox is doing it, it's a bad thing. Sony is Microsoft's closest competitor in gaming consoles. Okay. By contrast, Nintendo offers differentiated hardware and content aimed primarily at different, more family-friendly customer segment. And you know what? That is an argument that I know people are going all up in arms about this. It is true. Nintendo does offer more content aimed for the family-friendly stuff. But at the same time, have you seen the Nintendo Switch? Have you seen how many units they have sold? Have you seen all of the hardcore, you could say, gaming games that have come onto the platform. The only reason why, when you thought about Nintendo, I guess with like, not, well, the Wii U is a failure, but with the Wii, that it was only for families because they had the motion controls and everybody went out and bought a Nintendo Wii. They sold so many, but everyone went out and bought a Nintendo Wii, played Wii Sports, and then didn't touch their Wii ever again, right? But there was still there's Call of Duty on the Nintendo Wii. And the Nintendo Switch is similar. They have like Wii Fit, they have like Wii Sports, they have like that game that they launch with, like that party game or whatever. They have all of those styles of games, which are also games on Xbox and on PlayStation. There's games like that, but they have literally so many hardcore games. They have so many RPGs. They have action games. They have first-person shooters. They literally have everything because it's a popular console. Developers want to put their games on the console because there's a massive install base. So it's not aimed, I wouldn't say it's aimed primarily at the more family friendly segment. I would say that it is always a part of Nintendo's strategy, which is children and the family, with some of their first party games that they release, but third parties literally put everything onto the Nintendo Switch now because the console has sold so much. So Microsoft still needs to compete against Nintendo. They can't just be like, oh, forget about Nintendo, we don't have to worry about them. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's always been those three competing against each other. They just had all different strategies on how to compete, and Nintendo's right now has been mobile gaming more so than anything. A lot less. It was the Nintendo Switch's main strategy right now, I would say, personally, my opinion is that it's not the family friendly gamers that they ever trying to win over. It's the mobile market. People who play games on their phone, people who like taking their just games on the go, people who are playing the Nintendo DS, Nintendo 3DS. Those are a lot of the people that they were targeting. Because if you look at the Nintendo 3DS, if you look at how well that sold, you look at how well the Nintendo DS, well, I forget if the DS did that well, but the Nintendo 3DS started off slow and did really well. They were probably thinking, we got to transfer all of those gamers who are into mobile gaming, plus all of the console gamers, and get them into one platform, which is what they've done with the Switch. And it's worked out incredibly for them. They've done an incredible job. Sony's existing contractual protections from existing arrangements with Activision would not undermine Microsoft's ability to engage in partial or total foreclosure because they may not account for all the possible foreclosure mechanisms that could be available to the merged entity. They could be renegotiated or terminated early, and they may not be enforced depending on the respective parties' respective bargaining positions. Okay, so their existing contractual protections would not undermine Microsoft's ability to engage in partial or total foreclosure because they may not account for possible foreclosure mechanisms. So they're saying that their current agreements could just be completely reversed, and that Xbox, I guess, could come in here and foreclose Sony with terminating them early or renegotiating them. I don't know. That one seems pretty broad to me. I don't know why they would do that, but I guess you could say, okay, they got a point here. If they really want to do that and destroy PlayStation, that's their entire goal, which I don't, it could be not. I don't know if Xbox's entire goal of this thing is to destroy PlayStation. I don't think it is. I don't even think that they think about PlayStation that much, honestly. I think Phil Spencer has made it pretty clear in some of his interviews that their competition now are companies that are going to be getting into cloud gaming in the ecosystem and in subscription and like getting their content out there on every single device. PlayStation hasn't evolved. They haven't evolved in generations. They literally continuously are doing the same thing, and we're slowly seeing them now start to evolve into waking up and saying, oh shit, we need to actually compete now because Xbox is taking gaming seriously. We need to compete with them now, or we're not going to last. If Sony forecloses, it's not because Xbox bought Activision Blizzard, it's because Sony just failed to evolve. And you see that in business, multiple different sectors of business. Companies that are at the top, they sit on the rest on their laurels, they don't evolve, they don't change, and then they're gone. It happens all the time. And if Sony isn't there, it's only because of Sony, and it is not because of Xbox and Microsoft. If anything, Xbox and Microsoft are making gaming better for gamers. They're giving us more value. They are They are providing more value. They're making it easier to access games. They're growing the entire gaming industry, which at the end of the day is going to be better for everybody. I got these spam bots in freaking YouTube. They got to get their shit together and handle these stupid spam bots. Sorry. In relation to incentive, the CMA found that financial modeling of the merger suggests that the merged entity's incentive to foreclose Sony may be considerably stronger than suggested by the parties. So they're pretty much saying they don't believe Xbox. They don't believe Phil Spencer. They don't believe Satya Nadella with anything that they're saying. That's essentially what they're saying here. They don't believe that they're going to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. They don't believe that their goal isn't to just completely squash Sony. They don't believe that they don't care where people access their games. They're putting their games everywhere. They don't believe any of that. That's what they're saying with that statement there. Microsoft's past business practices suggest that it may be willing to make losses in the short term in order to build scale and increase its user base. In particular, Microsoft has previously acquired publishers and made their upcoming games exclusive to Xbox, when those publishers had previously made their content available to all consoles. Okay, so let's think about this. Bethesda, the most recent one. Okay, I guess you could think of like every other company, publisher, developer that they've acquired before that. I can't name every single game, but I guess like Hellblade was on PlayStation. Hellblade 2 is going to be exclusive. So, okay, fair point there. You think about Mojang, right? Minecraft, still available everywhere. A game that if you wanted to just destroy an entire base of gamers, where in terms of where they play, you put Minecraft only on Xbox. The amount of kids and adults, I mean, I have adult friends that still love Minecraft. I'm not trying to call it Minecraft here, but the amount of, I'm just using kids as an example because you think about the amount of kids who are playing Minecraft on their phone, on PC, on their PS4, on whatever, would nonstop be begging their parents to go out and buy an Xbox to play Minecraft, right? It would just be endless. Like they would be able to just get a huge amount of players and people picking up an Xbox to play Minecraft. They didn't do that, obviously. Bethesda. So new IPs like Starfield, Redfall are going to be exclusive to Xbox. Legacy IPs like Elder Scrolls Online staying multi-platform. We've seen Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. They honored those deals with PlayStation. So it's pretty obvious what they're doing is that games, new IPs going forward, new games that come out going forward are going to be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. And the older legacy games are still going to be staying on the previous platform, which would allow those people to not have to switch and cancel or stop playing on PlayStation to be able to access those games. That makes a lot of sense. Talked about this in depth previously, why I think that is a good strategy. You keep those old games on there. You don't want to lose the money you're making from those gamers on PlayStation, just like Call of Duty. And Call of Duty is a yearly release, but you could argue that it's a live service game with every single game that they release because it's the same base. They just play it every single year. It's like a lot of people's probably one of the very few amount of games that they play every single year, but it's the same people. Essentially, it's the same thing if they would just keep Call of Duty as a live service. Why would you cut that revenue from money that you know is guaranteed rolling in, that you're going to be getting the royalties, see what you can reinvest into your platform? You don't, right? So them taking off these games that were previously available and content that was previously available on all consoles, they've already pretty much proven that they aren't doing that. Starfield was never available on PlayStation. Redfall, never available on PlayStation. Those coming over exclusive to Xbox completely doesn't matter to this point here because they were never previously available. And on top of that, they're still going to be available on multiple different platforms. So this argument here makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. Makes no sense because majority of previously available content that Xbox has on other platforms are staying on those platforms. Microsoft has pursued this strategy when acquiring content that is far less valuable than Activision games and hence far less likely to divert customers to its console. Because every single game, Microsoft, if you're Xbox, you evaluate it for the cost benefit of removing it from a previous platform and putting it on your platform. I guess the example I did use was Hellblade, but Hellblade 2 is a new game. It's not a continuing game. When did the first Hellblade come out? I forget the year, but it's been years, right? It's not a game that has these continuous live service style of customers that are just going to be load up PlayStation and be like, where did my game go? No, it's not for Hellblade 2 because it's a brand new game. So I'm not even sure what games that they're referring to. Maybe there's a list I don't know. I don't know specifically which content they're talking about, but it'd be great if they would detail the content, because then it would make things a lot clearer. I have no idea which specific content they're talking about that Microsoft has pursued the strategy of acquiring the content that was previously available and taking it off the platform. Made their upcoming games exclusive to Xbox, and when the publishers had previously made their content available on all consoles. Microsoft could engage in partial foreclosure strategy, which would allow it to capture the most dedicated COD gamers. Okay, those who would switch to Xbox to benefit from enhanced content, interoperability, or earlier releases, whilst continuing to generate revenues from less dedicated PlayStation Call of Duty gamers who may not have switched to Xbox in response to total foreclosure strategy. Again, an absolute ridiculous argument, because PlayStation has literally been doing this since 2015. They've literally been doing this. The benefit of playing Call of Duty on PlayStation since 2015 has been better. You're getting content that isn't available on Xbox. So this argument here, absurd, because they're specifically mentioning PlayStation. This is why when I think about this, there's only two avenues that I think the CMA is going down right now. They have no idea what they're talking about. They haven't done any research. They haven't taken 5 seconds to Google. Or my brain goes to the crazy conspiracy side of thing, where Sony is like, because it's politics, right? You know, lobbyists, all that type of shit, that they've lobbied them very hard to try to block this deal. That's where the conspiracy side goes. But we'll see. The CMA did not identify any persuasive evidence that Microsoft would be deterred from engaging in total or partial foreclosure strategies by the prospect of reputational damage to Xbox or Call of Duty. Well, I mean, Xbox and Phil Spencer literally have come out multiple times and said that they're keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation. Is that not persuasive evidence enough? I guess you just believe that they're lying. Fair enough. I mean, people lie. Companies lie all the time. I don't think you should ever believe a corporation. So fair enough. I guess I can't really argue that point. If you don't believe them, you don't believe them. In relation to effect, the CMA focused on the impact of the merger on competition in the market for gaming consoles generally, not just on its impact on any specific competitor. Yeah. See, this is where I don't believe them. Because Sony was like the only one that complained. However, since the CMA found that Sony is Microsoft's closest rival and highly concentrated market for gaming consoles, the CMA considered carefully the impact of the merger on Sony's competitiveness. But why? Why is that the focus? Why is the focus of how well Sony is going to do at the end of this deal? Why is that the main focus of this entire thing? The focus should be on what Brazil said, which was it should be the consumer. And our consumer is going to be affected. It's just going to create more competition, and which will provide more value to the consumer. And it will, at the end of the day, 100% will. The answer is yes, it will. Sony is still going to be able to compete. Other companies are going to see what Xbox is doing. They're going to ramp up their competition. For the entire industry, it's going to increase the competition, but they're focusing solely on how is Sony going to compete from this? What's the result going to be on PlayStation? The CMA found that given the importance of Call of Duty to Sony PlayStation and the existence of strong direct and indirect network effects, any foreclosure strategy could have significant impact on Sony's revenues and user base. The impact of any foreclosure strategy on Sony may be particularly strong at the launch of the next generation of consoles. So they're thinking here that next generation, Xbox Series X2, there's not going to be no more Call of Duty on PlayStation. And that's a point that I think could come true. But it's still irrelevant. It still shouldn't block this deal if that's where that was going to be true. Because if Sony can't do anything between now and the next generation of consoles to maybe not completely make up all of the money that they're going to lose from Call of Duty, but to position themselves in a way to be able to compete better with Xbox and Microsoft, because I've predicted on the channel that Xbox is going to be bigger than PlayStation by the end of this generation. You can just see it. You can just see it by the way that they have positioned themselves since 2017 with Game Pass, cloud gaming, expanding out to multiple devices. They're going to be far bigger than PlayStation by the end of this generation, in my opinion. And if they can't do anything to stop to put themselves in a position where they're adequately able to compete with Xbox, that's on PlayStation's fault at the end of the day. It's not Call of Duty. It's not because of this deal. It's on PlayStation's fault. They haven't been able to adjust fast enough. If they took too long, if they sat back and took too long to adjust to the changing environment of the video game industry, that is on Sony PlayStation's fault. That is not on Xbox's fault. Because Xbox last generation, were dead in the water. But they decided to adjust. They decided to invest more into gaming, and they're back. Sony can do the same. I mean, Sony is not suffering it any way right now. So that's on PlayStation if that happens during the next generation of consoles. So they say when both new and existing users decide which console to buy. So it's just absurd. The CMA found, therefore, that a material impact on Sony's ability to compete would have a detrimental impact on overall competition in the market and ultimately harm consumers. Example, through higher prices, reduced quality, or reduced innovation in games and gaming consoles. If Sony were to close tomorrow, it would hurt. It would hurt. Yeah, I agree with that. It would ultimately harm consumers if they were to close tomorrow. But one, they're not going to close tomorrow. And two, there's going to be other players that come up between now and next generation that are going to create the same competition that Sony has created over the multiple generations of gaming. So I don't think in any way this deal is going to cause... One, I don't think this deal is going to cause Sony to close. And two, I think that if they did close, there's going to be so many other competitors coming up between now and the next generation that the competition is still going to be going hard. Sony isn't going to be the determining factor of consumer quality of games and everything. It's just not going to happen. Input foreclosure of rival multi-game subscription services. Okay, so the parties rivals in multi-game subscription services include providers that for a regular subscription payment offers access to a catalog of games that can be downloaded to a user's PC or console or otherwise streamed to different devices via cloud. Okay, that's Game Pass. The CMA investigated whether the merged entity could harm Microsoft's rival and lessen current and future competition in multi-game subscription services through strategies such as making Activision's content unavailable on rival multi-game subscription services exclusive to Game Pass. Here's the thing. The rivals haven't created a multi-game subscription service that's even close to Game Pass yet. And that's not Xbox's fault. Like they were slow to the market. This is what business is. This is what competition is. They were slow. They didn't adjust. That's PlayStation's fault. There's not a rival right now. You could argue PlayStation Plus all you want, but it is not a true rival to Xbox Game Pass and everything that they are offering and everything they're going to be offering as it continues to grow. Making Activision's content available for release on rival multi-game subscription services at a later date compared to Microsoft subscription services, timed exclusivity. PlayStation has been doing timed exclusivity forever. Degrading the quality of so they're just going over the same shit. They're just talking about the same shit up here, but in terms of bringing that over to a subscription service. All those same points. I mean, Xbox is going to have exclusive content on Game Pass. I would be surprised if they didn't have exclusive perks on Game Pass for Call of Duty specifically. Am I a fan of that? Do I think that they should do it? From a business perspective, absolutely they should do it. From a consumer's perspective, I couldn't care less about it because I don't want the player bases across Call of Duty to be split up with content at all. I don't think that is a good thing, because for a gamer, you want to be able to play with as many people as possible in a community for a game. We've seen what PlayStation's already done with Call of Duty over since 2015, and it's been bad for the game. So I don't want Xbox doing the same thing. But are they going to do it? Absolutely, they should. As a business, if I was a businessman, yeah, I'd be putting exclusive content onto Game Pass. It's not anti-competitive in a way that's going to destroy consumer value. PlayStation's going to be doing the exact same thing with PlayStation Plus. If you don't think PlayStation's in there right now thinking of all the exclusive content deals they want for PlayStation Plus and trying to get all of those, you're just absolutely crazy. So yeah, basically they use the same points that we talked about up here about in terms of consoles. They use it with cloud gaming. They use the same points here as to why they're going further into this investigation. In relation to ability, the CMA found that multi-game subscription services are becoming increasingly important, and Activision's content would likely be available on those platforms in the future. What Activision games are in a subscription service right now? I don't know. Don't think there are very many, if any. So there's no proof that this is even true, other than the fact that they will be in Game Pass because Xbox bought them. But if Xbox didn't buy Call of Duty, would it ever enter a subscription service? Probably not. Right? Probably not. And if Xbox didn't buy Call of Duty and Activision Blizzard, would PlayStation still be having exclusive content on PlayStation and doing these anti-consumer practices? Most likely. So the argument that this is bad is crazy, because at the end of the day, Call of Duty is coming to a subscription service that can literally be accessed on any point of entry with Xbox Game Pass, which is multiple devices. Activision's content may be as important to multi-game subscription services in future as it is to consoles today on a buy-to-play basis. Okay, sure. Game Pass is already the strongest provider of multi-game subscription services. Yeah, but this is because Phil Spencer came in and took over Xbox and realized that this is the way of the future. He was the first guy to come up with this stuff pretty much and make this the future of gaming. It's not his fault that he was ahead of the curve. He just did a great job with Xbox. Now other people need to compete and do the same thing. It's really not the rocket science here. Combining Activision's content with Game Pass could raise barriers to entry, entrench Microsoft's position as the leading provider of multi-game subscription services, and substantially reduce existing and potential competition. Sure, whatever. They're saying the same shit there. In relation to incentive, the CMA found that a static quantitative analysis of incentives would not be particularly informative in a dynamic market that exhibits direct and indirect network effects, particularly one that is nascent and rapidly developing, such as multi-game subscription services. Microsoft has publicly stated that one of the most important reasons behind the merger is to add Activision content to Game Pass to differentiate it from other multi-game subscription services, suggesting that it could have the incentive to make Activision's content exclusive to Game Pass. So CMA really does not want Call of Duty exclusive. They keep saying Activision's content, but they're saying Call of Duty. They don't want Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox Game Pass. That's essentially it. Which like, Xbox has said multiple times, is still on PlayStation. If you're Xbox, you look at Call of Duty, you look at the amount of money PlayStation brings in to you because of Call of Duty. Why in the world would you take it off of PlayStation? It'll be exclusive to Game Pass, but it will still be on other platforms. People are going to go over to Game Pass. If PlayStation wants to compete with Game Pass, they're going to have to go out. Well, first of all, I've mentioned this in a video previously. PlayStation literally has the answer in front of them. Right in front of them. Even though only 12% of PlayStation gamers play their first-party games, if they put their first-party games into PlayStation Plus day one, they're going to have an insane, at least a 12% increase in their subscription PlayStation Plus premium tier. And they're going to get increases in subscription just from people who play a third-party game on PlayStation, log on, see, oh, wow, this brand new first party game from PlayStation Studios is coming into the service day and date. I might as well sign up for this service and see what else is available. That's going to happen, guaranteed. They have an answer right in front of them, but they're not willing to do that because they want to be able to sell their games at $70 for $10 more than Xbox's first party. And they want to not have to compete with a high value subscription services. That's all this is about. They don't want anything to change because they don't want to actually compete with what is going on within the industry right now. Microsoft's first party titles are not available on any multi-game subscription services other than Game Pass, even where those titles are available for purchase on rival consoles. But their games are purchasable on PC through Steam. Why aren't PlayStation games purchasable on Xbox? Right? If PlayStation games were purchasable on Xbox and Xbox first party games weren't purchasable on PlayStation, this argument would make more sense, but this argument makes absolutely no sense. Microsoft internal documents further highlighted its incentives to foreclose rivals and multi-game subscription services. What are the internal documents? So this is something I guess I can't really comment on because I don't know what the internal documents say. Unless I missed it, unless someone has those internal documents in the chat. Did they specifically say they want to they specifically say they want to foreclose Sony in those internal documents? YouTube, man. YouTube, you got this spam. Okay. Third parties told the CMA that Microsoft would benefit from making Activision's content exclusive to Game Pass, and that this would be consistent with Microsoft's behavior in relation to past acquisitions, including that of ZeniMax Media. Microsoft did not uphold its promise to continue making Bethesda content available on multiple stores and platforms. Are these serious? They can't be serious. This can't be serious. So again, this brings me back to my two trains of thought as to what the CMA is doing here. They haven't taken 5 seconds to Google. Or the other train of thought, my brain goes conspiracy theory. I'm going to go with they haven't taken 5 seconds to Google to see all of the ZeniMax Media games currently, or any ZeniMax Media games currently within PlayStation Plus that are accessible on PlayStation, Elder Scrolls Online, Deathloop, Ghostwire Tokyo, any of those games. I mean, didn't they just announce Deathloop coming to PlayStation Plus? Oh my God. Anyways. So, I mean, this has got to be one of the worst arguments in the entire thing. Makes literally zero sense. In fact, the argument is the exact opposite. Getting Activision Blizzard for Xbox Game Pass would be great for consumers because not only would you be able to access games on multiple different devices, you're guaranteed they aren't locked to a console, and Microsoft, from their previous actions, potentially would continue to honor putting these games on platforms that they were previously on. Like that should literally be the statement. In relation to effect, the CMA found that Game Pass holds a strong position in multi-game subscription services pre-merger. Yes, because they were first in and they did it the best. And most of its competitors are significantly smaller in terms of user base and revenues. Yes, because they didn't take gaming subscriptions seriously, and now they are behind. It's the same thing that happened with Netflix. They will catch up. It will inevitably happen. If PlayStation is serious about subscription, they will catch up. Maybe not surpass, maybe not be at the same level, but they will be very competitive with PlayStation Plus. Most Game Pass rivals lack the popularity and range of content that Game Pass would own post-merger. Because it's so early, given the importance of Activision's content, current and future rivals could be affected by any foreclosure strategies using that content. Multi-game subscription services is a nascent market that exists both direct and indirect network effects. Combining Game Pass as the strongest incumbent with Activision's important gaming catalog could substantially reduce competition as a result of total or partial foreclosure or a combination of both. This could raise barriers to entry, reduce the number of competitors to one or only a few providers, and significantly increase Microsoft's market power. The merger may cause this effect or at least accelerate this process, thereby depriving consumers of a longer period of competition between platforms. Again, same old bogus they've been talking about. Foreclosure of cloud gaming. Okay, so this is foreclosure of cloud gaming service providers. Oh, all right. Long document. Cloud gaming technology allows. Okay, so let's talk about cloud gaming. Phase 1, CMA found that Microsoft already has an advantage over rival cloud gaming services providers due to its broad multi-product ecosystem. They literally say it right here. This is great for gamers. Broad multi-product ecosystem, including a leading gaming console, a leading cloud platform, and a leading PC OS. All great for gamers, having all of these different platforms in your ecosystem where you can play games wherever you want. Microsoft could leverage this ecosystem together with Activision's gaming content to strengthen network effects. Okay, yeah, anyways, they're saying the same thing. In relation to Microsoft's pre-existing strength across its ecosystem, CMA found that users and content. Microsoft is one of only 3 global gaming console providers. One of only 3 global gaming console. That's a lie. There are multiple different console providers. I mean, some of them are much smaller. I mean, you have all of like retro, I guess in terms of like the big actual new consoles, I guess they are the leading ones. This gives Microsoft 2 important advantages over most other existing and potential cloud gaming service providers. First, Microsoft already has a large user base to which it can promote its cloud gaming services. Okay. Thing is, like, when it comes to console providers, when it comes to promoting cloud gaming, you are promoting it to console players, but like you're mainly promoting it to everybody else who doesn't have a console. Why? Like, they're not going to focus on promoting cloud gaming to someone who has a Series X. It's just absurd. Like, that's not the user base they're going for. They're going for the person who doesn't have a console or doesn't want to invest into a console, doesn't have a setup, but still wants to play games here and there. Telling them that they can play these games on their phone are the gamers that they're looking at, not people who have a console. So I don't even know what the point of that statement is. Microsoft already has a large gaming library through Xbox Game Studios. Yes, which includes a collection of 24 first-party development studios. Given the strong network effects in these markets, the CMA found that Microsoft's existing user base, content, and relationships with third-party game publishers may already give Microsoft a significant advantage over cloud gaming service rivals without these strengths. But why is that Microsoft's fault that these other rivals don't have these strengths? They need to compete and build those strengths if they don't have those strengths currently right now. Cloud platform. Microsoft has one of the world-leading cloud platforms. CMA found that access to a strong cloud infrastructure on competitive terms is important to compete effectively in cloud gaming services. As such, the CMA found that Microsoft's vertically integrated cloud platform may already give it an advantage over rival cloud gaming service providers who do not have a similar cloud infrastructure. We saw Stadia. Stadia failed. They have very strong cloud infrastructure. They have more than enough money to be able to compete with Xbox cloud gaming. They failed because they cannot compete on the same level because they didn't understand gaming enough. They didn't provide enough value. They didn't invest enough in it. They didn't do all of these things that Microsoft is doing. They weren't consumer friendly like Xbox. Like, there's so many different reasons. So, anyways. Operating system, like about Windows. I don't need to go over that. In relation to the ability, CMA found that although Microsoft already has advantages over rivals pre-merger, the merger would significantly strengthen its integrated offering. It would strengthen its offering, of course. That's the goal. The goal is to strengthen Game Pass offering, get more people signed up for it. I mean, why else would you be doing this, spending $70 billion? I mean, PlayStation has been acquiring studios left and right. They literally just bought Bungie, which could be one of the most profitable live service games out there. And they could, I know Bungie said they want to keep it on everything, but they could literally do the same thing with Bungie. I mean, there's just, I don't know. I think I'm just running in circles here. We know that they have no idea what they're talking about. Absent the merger, rivals could still hope to compete against Microsoft by offering a different value proposition that is stronger on at least some parameters of competition. For example, by offering a better gaming catalog at a lower price. Have they seen the gaming catalog and the price Xbox sells it at? What, are they crazy? You're not going to get a better gaming catalog by anyone at a lower price because the price for Xbox Game Pass is already outstanding. And they're doing a family plan. Following the merger, it may be significantly more difficult for rivals to compete against Microsoft on any parameter of competition, as Microsoft would have by far the strongest integrated offering across cloud computer OSs and gaming content. The investment required by a competitor to develop an offering that could compete effectively with that of Microsoft could be significantly increased following the merger. Huh. I don't even... They just don't want... I guess it just sounds like they do not want Xbox to be the number one leader in video gaming. Because that's more so than anything, it sounds like what this could lead to. Because I do agree that in some way, Xbox getting Activision Blizzard, Xbox getting Call of Duty onto Xbox Game Pass will lead Xbox to being bigger, more popular than PlayStation. Bigger, more popular than, let's say, Tencent at some point, right? Like, I know Tencent's not very big in the West, but in Asia they're huge, right? But like they're trying to transition to the West. But at some point, Xbox may be the biggest video game company out there, and that's okay. That's not a terrible thing. It's not a bad thing. The thing here is that Sony is still going to be able to compete with Xbox. They may be number 2, they may be number 3. I mean, Xbox, what is we're at number 4, number 5 right now, whatever they are. They may be down lower on the list, but they'll still be able to compete with Xbox in an industry that will force Xbox to stay on their heels, or to stay on their toes, not on their heels, stay on their toes to continue to compete so that they do stay number 1. So I don't understand. This just sounds like they don't want them to be number 1. In addition, the CMA found that the merger could strengthen Microsoft's gaming ecosystem such that foreclosure strategies that may not have succeeded absent the merger could succeed after the merger, especially when deployed in combination. This merger is not going to cause PlayStation to foreclose. It's not going to cause Xbox to close PlayStation. It's not going to happen. In relation to incentive, the CMA found that acquiring Activision's content could change Microsoft's incentive to engage in foreclosure strategies using its ecosystem. Acquiring Activision's attractive gaming content could allow Microsoft to attract more users to its cloud gaming services platform. Given the strength of network effects in this market, this could make a foreclosure strategy using Microsoft's broader ecosystem more effective, thereby increasing Microsoft's incentive to engage in the foreclosure strategies described above, circumstances where it may not have had the incentive to do so absent of the merger. Okay, so they're talking about foreclosing it, saying that they may go forward and try to end PlayStation if this goes through, and they couldn't do that if it wasn't for Activision Blizzard. Although at the end of the day, people love to use Activision Blizzard as like an arguing point as to why Xbox is going to be on top at some point. It definitely is going to help them a ton with Call of Duty because it does appeal to such a broad range of gamers. That's the one thing it does do. But if you look at what Xbox has in their pipeline right now, yes, they haven't delivered on all of these games that are going to be coming out, of course. But if you look at what they have in their pipeline right now with just Bethesda and then all of the other first-party studios, what they're afraid of, which is Xbox becoming number 1, I think was still going to become number 1. I truly do, even without Activision Blizzard. Like, they would still be up there with Game Pass when they start delivering their first-party games every couple of months. It would still just be a deal that literally you couldn't walk into a store, you couldn't look at video games if they did the marketing and advertising right that you could ignore. Like, it would be impossible to ignore it. And it still is. I mean, you look at Game Pass right now, it's an incredible service even right now as we're talking, without releasing first-party games every 3-4 months or whatever. Which, with even Bethesda, they should be releasing games every 3 or 4 months, but with Activision Blizzard, they could literally be releasing games every like 2 months if they had like the pipeline and the timeline of how they are developing these games all perfectly down. In relation to effects, CMA found that the market for cloud gaming services is at an early stage of development, and that the competitive landscape could change significantly over the coming years. That's true. It is at the early stage in terms of cloud gaming, of course. But so was Netflix when they got into the subscription service, and look what happened in the streaming market for TVs and movies. The amount of competition out there is insane. The CMA found that strengthening network effects and raising barriers to entry as described in this theory of harm could affect all current and potential rivals in cloud gaming. Okay, so they go over more of how this deal will make Microsoft so powerful that nobody's going to be able to come in to compete, which I don't believe. I don't think that is a real thing. I think that companies like Amazon are currently in there. If they really want to, could easily compete with Xbox with the amount of money they have to invest in it. But here's the thing: these companies don't actually want to compete with Xbox. They just don't. They don't. They haven't invested. It's not their business. We've seen this happen. Companies try to get into the video game industry multiple times. Very few are successful. Microsoft was one of those companies that was successful. They continued to pursue it with the OG Xbox. But the OG Xbox could easily have been the end of Xbox if they didn't want to keep going forward. The 360 could have been the end of Xbox with the Red Ring of Death. They decided to keep pushing forward. The Xbox One could have easily been the end of Xbox, and they decided to keep pushing forward. You can't tell me that a company like Google and Amazon, if they wanted to push forward in video games, couldn't invest in it to push forward to compete right now in the current video game market. I just don't buy it. They're so rich. They have so much money to invest. They have so much money to blow. They have so much money to go out and acquire games and stuff. But they don't truly want to compete on that level yet. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, they shut down Stadia. They literally shut down Stadia. CMA also found that the competition concerns identified in this theory of harm could have consequences for the game publishing market. Okay, so they go over publishing. They're just saying all the same, the main stuff. I mean, we went over it. They're going into phase 2. Yeah. I mean, that was long. Thanks for sticking with me through that, but the chat thing here is broken. Anyways, the point is, out of all of this, you come to what they're saying. It literally seems like they're just trying to protect PlayStation. It makes no sense. I don't think anybody who reads through this stuff, if they actually follow the gaming industry, would make any sense of it. You can see that. You can see the comments. There's no way you can spin this as, like, in my opinion, as like, oh, we need to be really afraid of Xbox buying Activision Blizzard so that Sony can stay alive. Because if they do get Activision Blizzard, Sony will be gone, and we're going to lose all competition, and we're all going to have to kneel to the great Xbox power, where they're not going to care about consumers anymore, and they're just going to push out the shittiest games that they can. I don't think that is a worry. I don't think that is something that is actually something to worry about at all in terms of it eventually happening in the next generation of consoles or anything like that. To me, this just literally sounds like the people at the CMA, like I've said, going through this, have no idea what they're talking about. They haven't taken 5 seconds to Google the stuff that they are arguing that Xbox could do, because Sony literally has already been doing that for years. Or there's some sort of conspiracy behind this. I don't know. It's just, it seems pretty outlandish to me, but we'll see what happens. This could also just be their due diligence. This could also just be part of the process, because it's such a massive deal, and they're just laying out all the facts. They're just, I shouldn't say facts, they're laying out all their points, so it's clear, it's written. There's no ambiguity to anything, and then they'll go ahead with phase 2 and I guess approve it, or if they truly believe Sony's selling them, then they may not. I don't know. Whew, that was a long one. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. I'm just like, well, I've never seen this in the gaming industry where it's so public like this, because I guess we haven't seen big deals and mergers like this before, and or if these things were happening, there wasn't social media as prominent as it was, where you could literally stay up to date on everything for it. But this is like it's a very defining moment, I think, within the industry going forward, how this ends up. If they do block this deal, I wonder if that means that there will be restrictions in the UK only, and if the FTC approves it, will that mean that, is that even a thing? Can the CMA block it and then the FTC approve it and all that type of stuff? And will Xbox, can they appeal it? Like how all that is going to go down. There's still so much to talk about and to discover with this type of stuff, but we'll see how it all plays out. I'm coming up here on 2 hours and 12 minutes or so. So I'm going to call now. I wanted to, before I sign off here, thank you everyone for stopping by for Plumecast. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure to, if you haven't hit the like, share the channel around, share the videos, my daily videos around if you enjoy them. Subscribe, all that type of stuff. I'm trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. You guys have been awesome. Absolutely love the community. Hoping to continue to grow this thing. I love talking about games and I love just hanging out with you guys here on Plumecast Saturday night. So appreciate you all, and I will catch you throughout the week in my videos and next week in the Plumecast. Did I just say Plumecast? Plumecast. See you next week in the Plumecast. Everyone have a good weekend.